Good evening, valued viewers. I hope you're all doing very well. It's a Thursday, and it's been a busy day in the Grim Reaper's household, and everyone is settled down, and I thought I would sneak out in the night and do some work on my new toy, and it was getting a bit interesting at this point, so I thought I better record it and someone might be interested. So, ta-da! New toy. So if you remember before, I had a 1993 Nissan Sil 80. That's a Silvia, some people might call it a 180SX, imported from Japan. I pretty much built it bolt for bolt myself, and it was great until I moved to this place here where I live, out in the fens, where the roads are really, really bad. And it's a very delicate car. It's half the body is made of fiberglass and perspex and stuff like that. Long story short, I couldn't really drive it here, and it was just becoming a rather expensive paperweight. So I traded it in for something of about the same value, which is this here, 2006 BMW Z4M. I bought it because A, it's a soft top, and I've got a new love for soft tops. Get my golden locks in the hair. In the wind, sorry. And because of this, I'm really into, kind of DIY engineering, and this looked like a really fun unit to play with. It's called an S54. It's a non-turbo engine. I've always had turbo engines, but this is non-turbo. It's something a bit different. Instead, it's a high compression, high revving, naturally aspirated engine, 3.2 litres. I don't know what that is in cubic inches or whatever the hell you guys do. It's a nice engine. It's about 340 horsepower stock, so it's almost a racing-esque engine for the road, and I thought that would be really interesting. Haven't really driven it yet. I took it for a test drive, obviously. It's only arrived a few days ago. First thing I do is, of course, start stripping it down, just a very light strip down, and check things out. I've uncovered a few problems, as you do, because it's a 15-year-old car or whatever. No piece of engineering is perfect. Small things first, bit of rust. Well, it's not a small thing, it's a big thing. It's annoying, but there's beautiful bodywork, but there's a fair amount of rust. Again, it's an old car. It's probably be on a farm or near the sea, and a lot of the metal underneath is oxidised, and so be it. I've done a full restoration on this and before. It takes about 6 months, and I'll probably do the same on this. Also gives me a good chance to take all the suspension, everything apart, check everything, check all the bushings, and probably restore some of that if I can be bothered. Other problems I found: a rear differential. It's a rear-wheel drive car. The differential is leaking fluid from the front seal, so I think we'll probably try and do that ourselves. The exhaust is leaking. The exhaust is an interesting exhaust. It's kind of stainless steel, but not stainless steel. It's almost like a real cheap stainless steel. I'm not really sure what it is. Anyway, it started leaking near one of the cats where it gets hottest, obviously, and I need to take it off and inspect it. If I can repair it, I will. If not, then I'll have to buy a new one of some sort. That's that. A few odds and sods around the front here. I've been cleaning stuff up, taking some bits off, and I've been restoring some little bits at the front. Next thing, engine. Right, sorry, that's a lot of gabbing, but maybe someone's interested in it. Where is it? Cap, filler cap. If you look there, you can see that white scum. That is symbolic of a little bit of water in the oil. There's two things it could be. It could be a head gasket failure, which I really hope it's not, or it could be simply that the car has done only very small journeys. The oil has never really got up to temperature, and that little bits of water, which get everywhere. You can't stop water getting in engines, at all. It'll always, be in the air and whatnot. Has just done what it does and turned into that stuff there. So there's two options. Obviously, I'm not going to take the risk because it's a very expensive engine to damage. So the first thing I did is a sniffer test. CO. I don't really know what it is actually. I think it's a CO2 test. It's this doodah here. I'm sure you've seen them before. You buy them cheap from eBay or whatever. However, it didn't work on this car. I don't fully understand why it didn't work. As in, when I say it didn't work, I mean it just didn't even attempt to work. The gases refused to come out of the header tank there, and I don't know why. All the examples I saw on YouTube and stuff, the gases, whether it had a head gasket failure or not, there would be some gases coming out of there. My one, it didn't. Something special about the BM? I don't know. Anyway, it's a fail. So next, and I've got to do it quite quickly before the engine cools down, I thought, okay, let's take the spark plugs out and do some compression checks. Check if there's any obvious gaps in the compression there. That's another way that we can test it and look for any problems. And it's probably just a good idea to do one, I think, when you get a new car anyway that's not, a new car, to just check for any possible problems. So, covers come off, super easy. Coil packs have come off, or are coming off, super easy. Little trick I found along the way. They're kind of really cool. Coil packs, I've never seen any that are so cool before. I'm not a mechanic, by the way, so feel free to laugh at me. Best way I found of getting these out, put a little screwdriver under there and hop. Don't snap, don't snap, don't snap. Working. Probably shouldn't do this with the camera, but should be okay. Let's try that again. Hey, there you go, you see? And it comes up like that, so that's a cool little thing. But this engine, I'm going to take them off, and I'm going to do the first compression check, and we'll see what these cylinders are doing. One thing I noticed, a fair amount of gunk came out with the spark plug. In fact, why don't we have a little look at the spark plug? It may have dried out now. I haven't seen this before. Or maybe I haven't, just haven't noticed, but spark plug, if I can focus in, is very wet around the thread. Can you see that? A load of oil around the thread. Not seen that before. I know it's not focusing, but you might get the idea. So, okay, all of the spark plugs are out. Just a few reminders in case you're going to do this yourself. Things I've learnt: only do it when the engine's warm. Otherwise, you get some daft results with compression tests when the engines are cold. I never understood why. I guess tolerances or something like that. Before you take the spark plugs out, have a good look down the bore and make sure there's no crud in there. If there is, then just blow it out, lift it out, just get it out so it doesn't go in the bore. Obviously make sure there's no oil or anything in the bore before you take the spark plug out. For the spark plug socket, use a proper one, a magnetic one obviously, and clean any tools that are going in the bore first of all. Mistake I used to make, because otherwise again you'll get crud in the bore, and that's always problematic when it comes to fitting your compression tester. It can be a real swine sometimes. They've got sometimes slightly awkward threads and quite not very deep threads in the amount of threads, and it's really easy to cross thread them. So first of all, put a bit of oil around the ring of rubber here, and just be super careful when putting them in, and take your time and try not to over tighten them. Right, let's try bore one. Bore one done. A couple of things I remember before I forget: when fitting the tester, do the old spark plug trick of getting it in the thread, offering it up, reverse threading first, then rethread, just to make sure that we're not going to mess that thread up again, because obviously we've got steel on alloy. A lot of people say that you should cut the fuel off. I personally never bother, and it spits gas out, or all over the off room, but it doesn't really bother me. It all evaporates, and I've never had it affect a result, so I never bother. It's gone down a bit, but it was 200 psi on bore one. What should it be? No idea. And to be honest, I don't really care. What I really do care about is that they're the same, or within 5% or whatever it's supposed to be within all of them. Obviously, if one or maybe two show something different, then it's going to be obviously we've got a problem. So as long as they get around 200 on all six, it's going to be good. Also check if you're looking for an absolute. I'm only looking for relative results here. I don't care too much about absolute. If you want absolute to compare it to a manual or something, make sure you've got full battery, which I don't have at the moment. Okay, results are in. 180, 180 or 185ish, 185, 185, 190. 190 thereabouts, so all within about 5%. That's great news. Does it mean I've absolutely not got a head gasket failure? No, it doesn't, but the chances are pretty minimal now. If there was a head gasket failure in there somewhere, probably one of those pots would have picked it up. So it looks like we're probably going to be okay, which is nice. So the scum probably is just because it's been in a showroom and taken, just warmed up every now and then. Got to reassemble now. Just tips of obviously all the usual stuff for reassembling. When the spark plugs go in, reverse thread, then clockwise thread, just to make sure you're seated right. Clear out any crap that's in there, obviously. Try and reduce any oil. Hand tighten the spark plugs without any torque bar on, and always torque to the correct torque setting as per the manual. Never fluke it, or even if you think you know what you're doing, never guess. Always use the correct thing, because steel on alloy. There's also it looks oily enough to not worry, to be honest. But usually if you're doing steel into an alloy head, you would put some kind of protector, barrier, chemical, but since it is pretty oily here, I'm actually going to just leave it, to be honest. That's it, that's the first step. I'll have lots more stuff on this thing coming soon, and I look forward to learning more about the S54 engine, transmission, and future projects. I'll see you later.